to the Tax Abatement Study and Formulating Committee meeting. It is April 14th. We rescheduled because of sirens going off. When we were all going to be underway to the meeting originally scheduled for April 5th. So I appreciate y'all being flexible and coming now when the weather is so much nicer. Today is going to be all about quantitative information and sort of looking at how the numbers for the types of tax abatements that are already in place fit in with the overall general metro budget. And I'm hoping the experts in the back will catch me whenever I make mistakes. So listen carefully because I'm sure they're there. I'll just go straight to y'all. So in no particular order, I have handed out things, and I'm going to kind of start with the big picture and then try to go down. So I think most of you have this is straight out of last year's budget book. Mary Jo may recognize that.
Anything on the budget book. I'm learning as much as you.
Okay, there you go. But this pie chart shows up every year, and to me it's just really helpful to get kind of a visual big picture of our overall city operating budget, which is totally different from our capital budget, and we're not going to talk about that except maybe where debt service comes in. So the Metro budget is now essentially a $3 billion annual operating budget. I'm sure it'll be a little bit above that this year when we get the official numbers in the next couple of weeks. And I would just acknowledge that Councilmember Toombs has been budget chair and coached me through being budget chair last year, so we've both had the fun of helping put that large operating budget together. And the side that I want to focus on is just to see how that $3 billion pie gets kind of broken out amongst sort of the key categories, which you can see in the pie shape. The biggest thing is education, which is $1.1 billion of that total. You've got the percentages, and so I'm just going to give you sort of some general very, very rounded numbers. Public safety, which includes police, sheriff, and courts, and a few other things, is the next biggest chunk, and that's about $590 million. And then general government, which is like the council and the mayor's office and the planning department and a lot of other things like that, is one of the next biggest chunks. That's at $400 million. And this one is because we are growing and we are being aggressive with borrowing money to build things. Debt service is our next one. That's a topic of conversation that we're not going to get into, but just something to be aware of. That one's $460 million. Again, this is last year's budget. It'll be slightly different, but very similar, I think, in ratios. And then the next biggest chunk is infrastructure, which is largely water and NDOT, and that's about $150 million. And then the next biggest chunk is health and social services at $130 million, and then recreation and culture, which is parks and things like that, is $120 million. And then everything else kind of ends up in the miscellaneous category at about $60 million. So I think that's important for this group to understand, because our ultimate goal, as you remember, is to look at the different types of tax abatements that we already have out there, and then others that other cities are doing that the council might want to consider in the future, and provide some kind of guideline, one of what categories seem relevant today, with the possibility of that being updated by future groups in the future. And if we think it's appropriate to say there should be caps on that, and we may decide some should be capped and others shouldn't. So anyway, that's sort of the big picture. So keep that $3 billion in your mind all the time, and then the one I can always remember is education is about $1 billion, $1.1 billion, and the other ones kind of fall into place. So that's just to give you a little bit of a framework. And then the next sheet looks like this one, Metro Nashville and its budget. And for me, just the main relevant information there is just the list of all the different departments. There are about 55 different departments shown there. So just to keep in mind that $3 billion, once we take off education, which is over a third of it. Let's see, there you go. Sorry, I didn't. There are 54 other departments that split up that remaining in terms of, again, thinking, oh, it's no big deal to siphon off $100 million. That may be an entire department's worth. So I just wanted to, what these different funds are is interesting, but not really relevant to our discussion. But this is the best list to me of the major departments that are part of the budget. So, and those all fit into those general categories in the path that I just showed you. So that's kind of the overview on the Metro budget in terms of revenues, and then in terms of income, I don't know that that's relevant to our discussion, except that I will say that the major one is property tax, as you can see. And most of the tax abatements that we know to date are property tax abatements. So that's the piece that we would be affecting. And the unique nature of the tax abatements that we're talking about is that, and this is where I hope the trustee and the finance folks will keep me honest, and also Director Darby. For many of these where we, quote, abate the taxes, it doesn't actually show up coming or going in any of these things. And that's been one of the concerns that some council members have expressed, is that it's one thing for us to, as a council, every year deliberately say this much is coming in and we want to direct it to these things because that's our priority now. For some of these, we make a commitment on a 15-year pilot or whatever, and you don't necessarily see it here. It shows up in some other reports, and that's some of the other paperwork that I've got. So I'm going to just pause and take a breath and say, how about, Margaret, have I said that correctly?
I'll let Mary Jo chime in, but yes, I believe you're correct. I don't think that there is a line item in the budget ordinance that says we're not getting this amount of money, so
Right.
don't spend it.
Right. it just
Doesn't go in, yes.
disappears.
It's all in ordinances that go through the council.
Right.
And sorry, this may not be relevant, but the base tax, what you're saying, that incremental doesn't flow through anything, but does the original property tax get assessed and increase every year, or is it locked in typically?
Ooh, I'm gonna ask for help from the gallery here.
I think I need to understand your question a little bit more. Are you talking about general
Maybe.
property taxes?
When
or are
you have
talking
the
about
property and it's TIF, so when it's assessed, right, the property, and then there's that increment that doesn't, it's
Right.
carved out and doesn't go through, it sounds like it's separated. But is the whole property's tax assessment like separated, or is that base amount, the underlying base amount, continue to be assessed?
on the TIF, the underlying base amount should continue to be assessed, and then the taxes get paid into, and if I'm saying it wrong, get paid to the trustee, and then usually I'm thinking, and I'm just going to stick with MDHA TIF right now. MDHA will send information to finance and to the trustee about how much they are owed that year out of those properties that are subject to the TIF.
But I know it's correct. We get like an invoice from MDHA at the end of the year.
Okay. And invoice.
You get an invoice from me.
Yeah, I mean-
And we've got some of those numbers in here, so we've got actual examples of this.
So Councilmember Allen, we just wanted to say one thing from the trustee's office. I was going to let Mr. Hampton, he's our director.
The only pilots that is managed in the trustee's office where we receive collections is the low-income housing pilots, where we get a list from the assessor's office, and we adjust the bills and present those to the owners of those.
At the lower amount.
The lower amount.
Right.
The pilots that are managed by the MDHA and the Industrial Development Board, those are collected by the Department of Collections. There's collections, so we just receive, on the tax bill, it shows that the property is owned by MDHA, so it's zero, or the Industrial Development Board. So we don't send any bills to those agents, we'll say tenants, owners, until they come off the pilot, and then we bill.
And then you bill them for the full amount.
Yes, unless they have received another pilot so as long as they're under the pilots, we don't bill for those.
Right, and sometimes that's a 15-year.
And we don't and we don't have reports on the collections of that. That would be in the Treasury, and they have a collections department.
Gotcha. And I think that's part of the mystery around this is just us not, things flow in different directions, and that may be something we want to talk about just in terms of, just so we can get our arms around it. And just for review, what we've talked about so far are several different types of abatements. The TIF, tax increment financing, all runs through MDHA, and that is only in the redevelopment districts, which is another pretty picture that I gave you, that colored map. And we have several pages that talk about how those have been set up and where that money flows. Margaret, correct me. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you.
There's kind of a lot of nuance here, and a lot of things to be distinguished from each other. So when you're talking about TIF, most TIF runs through MDHA, but there are the IDB TIFs as well.
Okay.
And so there are currently, I believe, 2 of those. There's the Bellevue Mall, Old Bellevue Mall area TIF, and then there will be the new Oracle TIF.
And the third one approved 2 weeks ago.
Oh, and Madison Station. That's right. Madison Station is
Right.
The new one.
And that's a big one.
Yes. And so those are distinguishable from the MDHA TIF because you have different governmental entities that are approving them and overseeing them.
Gotcha. But those will still be ones that, because those entities own them, what the trustees sees is nothing.
No, so I want to distinguish, we need to distinguish TIF from pilot.
Okay.
Those are also distinguishable. So the pilots are, it's a payment in lieu of tax, it's in lieu of tax. So essentially, in order to get a pilot put into place, the owner has to be a governmental entity. So the original company, or in the case of the low-income housing, the low-income housing is still going to be a company, a developer, will deed that property over to the IDB or to the governmental entity. I think we have a health and ed board ones that are coming online. And then for the public-facing purposes, those properties are exempt. And then there is an agreement that's put into place where the company says, I'm going to pay, or there's an agreement to pay some sort of pilot payment, whether it could be 0% of the tax, or it can be 40% or 50%, whatever the number is that the parties agree upon. And so that's different, and those are the ones that Mr. Hampton was speaking about, the pilot. So just...
That's good.
Sorry if I keep jumping in.
No. That's important, and that's what I want us to try to get comfortable with.
And so, and the TIF flows through MDHA though, and they still invoice, it doesn't flow through the trustee.
The TIF monies, the property owners that are involved in a TIF will pay their taxes as normal.
Yep.
MDHA will invoice Metro proper for the total TIF amount of all of their properties that are subject to the TIF. So
So
the property owner pays their taxes, and then MDHA invoices the finance department in order to get those funds for the loans that they've issued.
Okay, so they take that income. Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha. So then that actually does show up in the pie chart.
Yes.
So we see that coming in, and then it's an invoice that we then see
Yes.
going back out again.
Yes.
So that's important. Okay, so that's helpful. And so the color chart that I've given you, this is MDHA's redevelopment districts, and those are TIF projects. And so those are the ones that, yeah. There you go. And Joe Kane had given us some good handouts and various types of detail that sort of show. I think you have one that looks like this, that just shows for each of those redevelopment districts that are color coded. You got that one. Different amounts are being billed, and that ends up coming out to 8.9 million for the standalone loans, and then there are some refinance loans, so that the total amount is essentially 19 million on the back. And so, make sure I'm saying this right. Those are property taxes that are paid, and then MDHA invoices Metro.
Yes.
And says, we need that money because we're going to pay the bank back with it because we used our authority to get you these great loans to make this stuff happen. And so that is, that actually does show up coming through the, as an income, but it's an income that we automatically spend, and I don't think there's any council way to divert those funds and say, we don't feel like paying it this year. So it's an obligation that is a long-term, anywhere from 15 to 30-year obligation. So that is the...
And I assume what this is showing, in part because of the refinancing 3 or 4 years ago, but the total eligible tax increment is $39.8 million. MDHA is only invoicing $18.9 million for that. Historically, we could have had the entire amount. So there is almost a $20 million delta that is going to the general fund that otherwise would have been available for TIF.
Gotcha. And that's an important thing to point out. Which means that some of those have been paid off, but we're still collecting it.
That's correct. And then when you see at the bottom, the refinance loans, and I'll get the numbers wrong, but the debt service on that shows at the top of the next page is like $8.5 million. That 4 years ago, they took an aggregate of several TIF loans and put those into one loan and refinanced it, which freed up money for Metro at that time when they needed it.
Because the interest rates were
Because
significantly lower.
it made all the sense in the world to do so, and that is what has created some of that excess. So you do have money that otherwise wouldn't be available to Metro that's coming back to Metro.
Gotcha. So, thanks for that clarification. And there's 2 pieces of paper that Joe Kane gave us that were developed by Partners for Economic Solutions as part of their study on TIF. And this is on the website for this group, which I sent y'all the link to. And again, this is just a little bit more detail on what the total amount of the TIF was as opposed to the annual payment, which I'm showing you here. And each of these redevelopment districts in and of itself has a maximum amount, and Charles Robert, I may get you to take. Can you just explain briefly how we're drawing down on that, or what the remaining capacity means when we see the list that says this one expires at this point and there's still this much left? What does that mean?
And Margaret can correct me, or the trustee's office can correct me. Each of those districts has its own amount of TIF eligibility that has been approved by the Metro Council. Each of those also have a lifespan that run 20 or 25 years, whatever it is. And so I think a couple things to note about that is the reason you see some of that that's unused is either just a district where there haven't been eligible projects, or where there's not enough term left on the district itself that could even pencil out how you would go about doing a TIF loan, because you might have 5 years left or 7 years left, which wouldn't be enough for the debt service. I think the thing that changed over the last 10 years is it used to be that those money, so if you went and said XYZ redevelopment district has $100 million worth of TIF capacity, as those loans got paid down, that money didn't flow back to Metro. It was still trapped in that redevelopment district and could be redeployed for another TIF loan, or like what happened with the Omni Hotel piece of that TIF component. You took several different projects that had excess increment and pledged it to that as a part of the TIF, all of which was completely legal at the time and arguable whether it was the right thing to do. I think just Metro evolved to a standpoint of where you almost don't allow those districts to be used as kind of a revolver. They're kind of one-time funds, and then once they've been used, then they can't be replenished.
Gotcha. Which gets it back into the general fund, which gets it back into schools.
And I think that's where the conversation obviously has evolved, result in Nashville being in a much different place than it was, even 10 years ago on the things that you wouldn't have to incentivize or push to do, or the but-for tests today that you would have had to have done, kind of 10 years ago. And so now the thought process is, okay, well then let's begin to return more of this money to Metro sooner rather than later, as opposed to using it all to pay down the loan. And I think one of the recommendations from the last TIF study committee was that now you can only pledge essentially 75% of that increment, as opposed to before it was 100% less your percentage for debt service, as kind of a nod to say, hey, if we're going to do a TIF deal, that's fine, but we want Metro to participate in the upside of that from the outset, as opposed to having to wait until using 100% of that increment and having to have those loans paid off entirely before it flowed back to Metro.
Right. And does that show up as well in that?
I assume that's got to be a part of it without question.
Right. So with this list, that gives that part of that eligible tax in. Because that was a very emotional topic probably 6 or 7 years ago. Citizens were showing up very concerned that downtown buildings were, getting, quote, a tax break, and it was coming out of what should be going to schools. And so now we've at least kind of very deliberately tried to ensure that that is not what happens. So we have TIF, we have pilot. TIF comes only from MDHA, and now we have 3 IDB TIFs, Industrial Development Board TIFs. And the pilot, payment in lieu of taxes, now can come from several different entities. MDHAs are used only for the low-income housing tax credit, and we have a summary of those. It looks like this one there. And so those began in 2017. The council passed a new, I'm sure it was an ordinance that authorized MDHA to offer these low-income housing tax credits to offset the way that the state was causing the low-income housing tax credits not to work anymore because they were taxing them on the value of something. I get that explained to me repeatedly, and it escapes me every time. But when we created this pilot, it made the low-income housing tax credit pencil out again, which is important because that's been our most effective tool for creating affordable housing. And that is run through MDHA, and this list that I've given you, according to my math, comes out to about $5 million a year for what we currently have. That has a $2.5 million a year cap. But as we add projects year after year after year, and most of those run for 15 years, theoretically, that could then be 2.5 times 15, which is a lot. So that's a cap that's already sort of in place, but it ends up being a fairly large number on that one. And then the final one is the new mixed income pilot, which we don't have any actual examples of yet because we're still working through all the legalities and paperwork and stuff like that. There are 4 or 5 projects that have successfully applied for that and immediately maxed out last year's $2.5 million cap. But none of those have actually started receiving money, so that it doesn't show up anywhere, but because the pilots don't show up in the actual budget, they only show up in reports that are given to the council under different headings. So, and then, Margaret, you had offered to help me out with a different type of TIF, which is...
These are pilots.
These are pilots? Okay, thank you. So these are pilots, but these are MDHA pilots.
No, these are economic incentive pilots.
Okay, which is also mostly industrial development.
They run through the Industrial Development Board, and they are, I was looking at the list, and most of them have run out for short periods of time. The ones that are still, that are on the list that kind of go past this, the 2025 column are the Ryman, Hospitality, CHS. Ryman Hospitality actually ends in 2025. CHS goes through 2029. Bridgestone, I'm still looking for the end date on that one. I pulled it up and didn't write it down. And LifePoint goes through 2029, and the Dell pilot goes for some time. I think that was a 1999. Is it 1999? It's a 40-year pilot.
Yeah.
I just can't remember the beginning.
It was under Bredesen, wasn't it?
Yeah, so
Maybe early.
yeah, it's been a while, but it's still going.
Right.
Can I ask a question on this? The amount, is that the amount that the companies are paying in pilot, or the value of the discount?
That's the value of the discount.
Yeah.
I was looking at that earlier today too, trying to figure out
That there.
So this is showing that money that Metro would get had it not been for
Yes.
additional monies that Metro would have gotten had it not been for the pilot.
Right.
So you can see one example, if you look at LifePoint, up till 2016, well, the numbers change each year, but because there's often a jobs component built into it that will change the amount. But in 2016, it dropped down pretty significantly. I believe that was due to the reappraisal year. And then in 2018, it dropped down even more significantly because the value of the pilot went to 40% as opposed to 0%.
As
So
part
they
of
had
the
to start
contract.
paying money.
Gotcha.
So they were paying, so they were paying 0%, and then in 2018, they would have started paying 40% of the standard tax, whatever that tax was that they would have otherwise owed. So you can see that it drops down, and then in 2018, I think that goes for 11 years. That 40% payment will go for 11 years.
Right.
But they typically, oftentimes they will step down. But I will say this, all these economic development pilots that were entered into, absent Dell, most of them have Dell has a jobs component too, but I didn't deal with Dell, so but most of them have
And
a job.
that's shown in the group below is the job grants.
No, that's separate. So when I say a jobs component, it's not just a flat abatement of their taxes. There are a few that did have that, but most have some sort of jobs component. So if they don't meet a jobs target, whatever that number may be, and it is different for each one. Each one of these is individually negotiated, but there will be some sort of jobs component in there where if they don't meet the target, then they may pay some additional percentage of pilot payment, and it varies across the board. I could come back with more details, but the calculations sometimes get very, very in the weeds.
Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you for explaining that. That's much better than not doing that.
The jobs grants, which is below the line there, those are all jobs grants agreements. They're incentive grant agreements that are entered into pursuant to a code provision that allows, I think it's $500 a job.
Or something. And that's an actual payment, so that one
is an
actually
actual payment.
does show up in the budget
It does.
as an item that we spend money on. Unlike the top part, which is just money that never comes in until the pilot runs out, and then we do benefit from the fact that they're there, which is the logic behind it is if we don't incentivize this, they won't be there, period, and we won't get anything from them 15 years down the line either.
And there are a couple of pilots where it starts out at a 0% or 100% abatement, and then it ramps up so that towards the end of the pilot period, the company might be paying 75% of the standard tax that would be owed at that time.
Right. And then phases out slowly.
Yeah.
So these all sort of fit into what I see as two categories. One is job incentivizing, which was what was heavily focused on, I'd say from 1999 on. I mean, I think We can look at several things that Bredesen did as mayor that were not necessarily the type of deal we would make now, but at the time it was sort of, how do we get somebody to pay attention to Nashville? And that's not a problem now, so we don't do things the same way, but it seems to have spawned a bunch of other things that follow. So we've learned a lot. We do things much differently. And I don't believe the past 3 administrations have given any pilots. We've had a few job grants, maybe a while back.
I don't think we've done any pilots. The jobs grants, we have I think Amazon and Alliance Bernstein, but the pilots kind of petered out.
They petered out.
Why is that? Just curious.
There was a lot of citizen focus on why in the world are we allowing these companies to pay lower taxes when we need that money to be going to schools. I think it was a sentiment that was expressed so strongly. The response was, that may not be something we need to be doing because people are coming anyway. I think some of it is a change of circumstance. And again, Charles Robert, you spend a lot of time on that other committee.
Think about, under Mayor Purcell, there was a lot of interest on downtown living and downtown apartments and multifamily, right? So that was a focus of even TIF incentives, et cetera, which today we wouldn't have to do, right? We'd be crazy to do so, right? We've now got 16,000 units or whatever the number is downtown and going to 40,000 units. And then, under Mayor Dean, you saw a lot of a push towards hotels for the convention center. Today, it seems like an absolute slam dunk. It was incredibly hard to get Omni here. The city had awarded the RFP to Marriott, and they kind of backed out on it. They couldn't even figure out how they wanted to go about doing it. So today, you wouldn't incentivize another downtown hotel. There'd be no need to do so. And the jobs aspect of that too, even in 2017, 2018, the idea of Amazon coming to Nashville and coming to the edge of downtown and bringing 5,000 jobs as a start, that was a big deal. And then that led to Oracle. But then today you probably wouldn't have to do even what you did 3 or 4 years ago. And so and I think kind of my soapbox, but part of the trick with TIF is as you create these development districts to provide enough flexibility so that you can properly incentivize whatever the needs of the day are, right? So whether that's historical preservation or whether that's green space, it's all got to kind of come under the guise of infrastructure and the allowable uses for that. But you want to be in a position where you're encouraging whatever it is that either the political will or for the city to say this is something that we actually need to do that wouldn't get done otherwise. And if you add up all these sheets from the pilots to the job grants to the pilots for the affordable housing to the TIF stuff, you're going back 30 years and probably have $30 million worth of stuff that otherwise would be coming to the metro budget out of a total budget of $3 billion. $30 million is a lot of money, but that's also the investment that has been made to get what we thought we needed to incentivize at the time. And I don't know, I know we hear from Councilman Mendez and others that we need to establish, we just need to know how much is it going to be, and whatever that amount is, I don't have any idea. And that may very well be true, but when you look at it, you aggregate these 3 sheets, and I think where this committee is headed is a pretty logical, fact-based and I think the public perception is that we're losing hundreds of millions of dollars a year to TIF and economic incentives and other stuff. It's just not true.
Yeah, it's not that much. And again, if I've done my math right, what I've added up is the TIF is about currently $19 million a year. The Industrial Development Board pilots are about $6 million, and the MDHA pilots are about $5 million. So when everybody, keeps saying it.
So I think it's clarity. I'll be honest. I'm having a hard time, and we've had multiple. It's even understanding, let alone someone who doesn't have the benefit of experts presenting to them, and But it also sounds like what Charles Robert was saying is it's what it was for, right? And maybe job incentives is sometimes not necessarily tangible to the everyday person. I think So it's when we look at what is it used for now?
Yeah.
I think that was a good.
That's a really important point, I
Yeah.
think. And I would say, I mean, what my hope is when we ultimately make a recommendation, that it will include just some thoughts on, and Tanya's in the middle of the market analysis assessment that hopefully will provide us some good ideas on what the community is saying. You know, that we've moved from needing the jobs and the downtown housing to things like affordable housing clearly is one of the emphases that we have now, but childcare, grocery stores, I mean, there are other types of things that transient-oriented development, which is one of the things we're going to hear about at our next meeting. So just trying to get an idea of, how do we get the pulse of what's out there today and then allow for the flexibility for every 3 years or 5 years, for some smaller group, and maybe that comes under the ECD umbrella, we revisit that and tweak whatever we're saying to sort of encompass whatever comes up, because back in the 90s, who would have thought that affordable housing was the issue? It was all about we need the jobs and all that kind of stuff. So I think to me that's the big arc of where we're going. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to create a one-pager, which I think is really necessary, or that would be helpful. That again, what is helpful to me is look at the context of what our overall budget is, and then sort of where those three buckets are today, and then what other possible buckets we may want to be looking at. And LaTanya, what's the time frame on the market value analysis
I
and
need
community
to double
engagement
check
process?
with Angie Hubbard because she's leading that effort.
Okay,
So I can double check with her. Let you know.
but it will include the part that you and I talked about.
Yes.
What are the community needs?
Yep, exactly.
Because I want to get that formalized. So I think that's important information for us. So that's kind of the information I wanted to cover tonight. Just to sort of quantify the types of things that we've been talking about for the last couple of meetings. And Diane Alarcone from NDOT is going to come talk about transit-oriented development districts, which is a new tool that we thought we were all ready to use in Donaldson 2 years ago, and we sort of realized we hadn't really put it together in the correct way, I think, or certain council members thought that. Jeff Syracuse was ready to do that. So that's something we're still learning about, but it is something that other cities are using. So more education at our upcoming meeting on that. And then possibly just to hear about what we do have some tax abatements for historic preservation that we're just beginning to use on 2nd Avenue that we'll hear about. And then hopefully I'm going to be able to grab some expertise on what other cities are doing in the way of grocery stores and things like that, and just to hear about how those work in those other things. Can y'all, anything else that anyone is aware of that you would want to add to that agenda, or great people to call on to fill those niches?
Sounds great.
Okay, all right, that's my plan for that one. And then my thought is, after that, we may begin to at least move towards thinking about how to put this in a concise document that we could hand to someone who's a newbie and hope that they could understand this in a meaningful way. So that's where our future arc is. Our goal was to maybe be through with this in July before there's an election. We're planning to be around, but you can't count on that.
And now we know we're going to have an election.
And now we know we're going to have elections, so that's the good news. But I think if we can get this close to done, the rest of y'all we know will be relevant, and hopefully the two of us will also be relevant. But if we can get it, close to that, then that would be good. But if there are no other questions or thoughts, yes.
Can you do the clarity again for? I heard you say the TIF money comes in, but it's not reported. So where is it reported? You said council gets a report.
So, okay, let me talk my way through it again. Tax increment financing money is actually paid through a bill through the collections department. Okay, not
Trustees.
through the trustees. That's the one that's paid. Thank you. Okay, that's paid through the trustees, but then MDHA bills Metro, I guess Finance Department, and says, this is money that we have to use to pay back loans with.
So the trustee then sends MDHA money.
The amount that they ask for. And as you can see here, it is less than what gets paid in, so we're already,
Finance sends that money.
I'm sorry, Finance.
Finance bill sends the money to MDHA. Okay.
Finance sends the money to the MDHA.
It used to be you.
Margaret, do you know how it works for IDB TIFs?
No, IDB is done differently. So, well, on the TIF portion, the taxes get paid just like any other tax, and so that money goes to the trustee. And I'm thinking right now just Bellevue and presumably Madison Station will be like this. Oracle's a little bit of a different beast, and I don't have the details of that in my mind right now. But the taxes get paid to the trustee's office, and then the increment that's due to the bondholder who is due the increment would get paid out by finance.
Okay.
By Finance, okay. Again, back to the IDB, who then sends it on.
Finance manages the IDB accounts.
Finance manages the IDB accounts. Okay. That makes
So
sense.
once MDHA bills the finance department and they pay the bill, is there like any money left over?
Yes, because it's the increment that goes to MDHA. So whatever, there's going to be a base tax and presumably a dedicated tax also. The dedicated tax would be that amount that Metro pays on debt service. There's a base tax and a dedicated tax that do not go to MDHA, but the increment above that would go to MDHA.
So
And then there's a little bit of an administrative fee that MDHA
And there's the
takes.
admin fee.
So the money that's left, where is it? Where does it go? What column?
It goes into the budget just like any other tax dollars.
Okay.
And that's called the general fund. So once it goes into the general fund, then
So are those monies, those funds identified as that and then put into the general fund?
yeah.
Because that may be where taxpayers is losing it. I mean, they will, at least they can see something.
Right.
You know.
So there's a great, I'm showing you the height of the budget book. That's what that is. Again, Councilmember Toombs is very familiar with that. And this is a page out of the budget book, and so is that nifty pie chart. And in that budget book, there is a whole section on all our revenue and where it comes from. And then there's another section on all the money that gets paid out and who it goes to. And if you spend enough time flipping through there, you will eventually get to those payments.
Okay.
And if you, I don't know that you will ever see, because the payments coming into the general fund through by way of the property tax, that just comes in as one big, the trustee
Yeah, we don't get.
collected all this property tax. And it's just that 57% of the pie chart that you saw. But many of these programs, once we set them up, require an annual report. And that report is sent to the council, and we have created a terrific page now called, if you go to the council website, nashville.gov, go to council, and at the bottom it says council resources, and in the midst of that there are reports due to council, and there you can find a lot of the things that we've set up, and we want an annual report on this and this and this and this. So within those there are, Margaret, correct me if I'm saying this wrong, there are reports that will say, here's what happened, on all the.
To the extent that those reports are distinguishable from other reports, so if it's just a report that only the council wants, then it'll go on there. But if it's something that the council wants to receive, but it's a report that, for instance, finance puts on their website, we don't put that on our council resources page. You would need to go to the finance website.
It would be great if we had a link to it on our page.
We're trying.
Right, Quinte?
The finance website, if you go there, there's a tab called, under Citizens Guide to the Budget, there's a tab called Documents and Resources, I believe. And there is a host of information over there that is valuable for anybody who wants to go look at that. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I just was also going to add, like, for example, the incentive report that you have with the different corporate, like, that's in our annual consolidated financial report. So the ACFR, A lot of the reports, if they're in the ACFR also.
Yeah.
So they're updated.
Every year.
Yeah.
And so you can go to the, I think it's called archive past year reports or something like that. And
This one's not archived. Just every year the ACFR will be out. And they're all listed.
Right.
You don't even have to go to archived.
okay,
But like that spreadsheet that you shared, that's in the ACFR.
gotcha.
Exactly as is.
So all these numbers are somewhere. It's just usually it's in some really large reports. So hopefully we can consolidate some of that. Thank you for that input. Other questions or thoughts? Okay, so we'll be back May 3rd. I think is that Wednesday. And if you don't mind, keep the 17th open as well. We'll see if we need it or not. It was handy to have this date on everybody's calendar. So appreciate the flexibility again. And if there are no other thoughts, we'll just adjourn. Have a good evening. Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.